groovy.
Welcome back, Horror Hounds. This week is Psychotic Pet Week, where you voted for your favorite horror film that deals with pets gone wild. The vote was very close between Madhouse and Monkey Shines, but there could only be one clear winner. Monkey Shines was filmed on a budget of $7 million and directed by George A. Romero in and around Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, including Carnegie Mellon University and the University of Pittsburgh. United Artists purchased the rights for the film from Michael Stewart's 1983 novel of the same title for $20,000. Monkey Shines was released theatrically in the US on July 29, 1988 in 1,181 theaters, where it made $1.9 million on opening weekend. Over its 22-week theatrical run, however, it managed to rake in only $5.3 million, leaving it technically a box office failure as it fell just below the budget. Monkey Shines was the second feature film Romero ever did with a major studio, as many of his works were considered independent, such as the Dead films that he's most famous for. The film also served as the first role for Stephen Root, who played the evil Dean Burbage. You may remember Stephen as the mumbling Milton from the cult classic Office Space. Burbage's original role was a bit longer, and cut from the film to create an alternate ending I will discuss after the breakdown. You've probably seen this VHS box art staring you down at your local video store back in the day, but it's now time to see what all the fuss is about. Remember to stick around after the breakdown for more fun facts on the film and a special announcement. It's time to take a look at Monkey Shines in the breakdown. After seeing a brief message regarding the film, we see the title card. The story begins with Alan Mann, played by Jason Bang, who is also on the hit TV show Chicago PD. He tosses a few bricks in a backpack and takes off for a morning jog. Tom Savini does the special effects makeup work on this film, so you know it's got to be good, right? Let me just say, it's 3 minutes 30 seconds into this film and I'm already breaking a sweat along with this guy. A dog startles Alan and he gets hit by a truck. Later in the emergency room, we find out Alan has a cracked spine and he undergoes surgery. 4 minutes in, they wasted no time here at all. Alan is now a quadriplegic, confining him to a wheelchair equipped so he can use his mouth to operate it. Then we meet Dr. Wiseman, played by the great Stanley Tucci, who is responsible for saving Alan's life. Alan's girlfriend grabs herself a drink. It's supposed to be scotch, but looks more like piss. I've never seen scotch this color, honestly. A nurse pours the scotch from the glass she's drinking from into a cup, then delivers the drink to Alan. The nurse introduces herself as Mary Ann Hodges, and was hired by Alan's mother to take care of him. Next we see Jeffrey Fisher, played by John Pankow, casually carrying a cylinder that contains live human tissue. Yeah, no transition here, Horror Hounds, straight to the weird shit. We find out in the lab the cylinder contains a portion of a human brain. Jeffrey injects himself with a strange red liquid that looks a lot like Hawaiian Punch. He then scrapes off some of the now frozen brain matter into a petri dish, while a concerned monkey that's just loose in the lab watches on. Jeffrey turns the brain matter into a liquid that also looks a lot like piss, and injects it into the monkey called number 6. Jeffrey then visits his old roommate, Alan.
How you doing, Ace?
We find out that Hawaiian Punch injection is actually Parnate, a chemical Jeffrey created for himself to stay awake for days on end so he could do more work. Alan mentions to Jeffrey that his girlfriend is leaving him because he's disabled. Later, Dean Burbage, who is played by Stephen Root, discusses with Jeffrey the results of the experiments he's been performing, and we find out Burbage is behind all of this experimentation for a profit. To speed up the process Burbage wants, Jeffrey decides to get number 6 out of the lab for further testing. A bad idea. While Alan struggles to adapt to his new life, he decides to attempt suicide. But Jeffrey finds him and calls 911. At the hospital, Dr. Wiseman gives Alan's smother a word of advice.
I think you might actually be aggravating the situation.
And we find out Dr. Wiseass is actually banging Alan's girlfriend. The plot thickens, which infuriates Alan's friend, Jeffrey. Jeffrey then meets up with the mom jeans-wearing Melanie, who trains capuchin monkeys to assist disabled individuals. Melanie asks Jeff a question before she agrees to train number 6.
She's normal. She hasn't been exposed to anything weird in the lab.
No.
I think we all know that's not true. Jeff pops into Alan's house later and gives him number 6 to help him out around the house, where she messes with the nurse's bird, explores the house, and brings Alan a drink. Smart monkey. Melanie names number 6 Ella. Alan likes that name. So does Ella. The nurse doesn't. Turns out she actually hates Ella. Melanie works with Alan and Ella to ensure Ella is doing her job and assisting Alan with his day-to-day chores. Ella bonds with Alan. Melanie shaves Alan as they begin to bond too. Ella watches intently and gets a bit excited at the sight of blood. Alan heads back to school and brings Ella along. Jeff swings by Alan's place to see Ella's progress and to give Ella another dose of his smart serum, which sends her into a rage. Alan tells the nurse Marianne the house is starting to look like a pigsty.
When you don't perform those functions, we get pissed off.
Marianne is jealous of the monkey.
It's unnatural, you and that monkey.
Marianne's bird flies into Alan's room and onto Alan's face, pissing off Ella. The next morning, Marianne finds her bird. Jeff prepares more serum for all the monkeys in the lab this time around. Then Alan has an experience and sees Ella's cage opened. Marianne blames Alan and Ella for the death of her annoying-ass bird.
It fucking deserved to die.
Alan's mom announces she's moving in with Alan, with Marianne quitting. Alan looks thrilled. Alan gets snippy with his mom.
Mother, did you see my fucking hand mover, didn't you?
Later in another doctor's office, Alan learns that he wasn't actually paralyzed by the car accident at all, but instead by a congenital abnormality. The doctor thinks his paralysis can be reversed, but needs to run more tests. On the ride back home, Alan grows pissed over Dr. Wiseman's original diagnosis of him and blames Wiseman for putting him in that wheelchair in the first place. Melanie doesn't like Alan's attitude and how he's changing. Alan's got good reason to be pissed. Dr. Wiseass here left him paralyzed and he's porking his girlfriend. What a son of a bitch. And now I'm angry. Later that night, Alan envisions a fire at the cabin where Dr. Wiseass is bumping uglies with his girlfriend.
Something terrible has happened. There was
A fire.
Alan wants Jeff to take Ella away. Jeff knows Ella is getting out through the window in the attic and doing exactly what Alan desires, all part of Jeff's scheme to further experiment with the serum and its abilities it's giving Ella to telepathically listen to Alan's thoughts. Jeff agrees to take Ella back to his lab. Ella clearly hates that idea. Back at Melanie's place, she has sex with Alan. In the lab, Ella wants Jeff to inject her again with the serum.
Turned you into a fucking junkie, huh?
Instead, Jeff shoots himself up with the last bit of serum in hopes that he can see its effects firsthand, where he sees what Ella sees, which is the attic of Alan's house. Alan's attitude immediately changes as Ella enters the house. Alan gives his mom a few words.
Conniving, clinging, blood-sucking bitch.
Jeff wakes up now and fills a syringe with poison. Back at Alan's pad, his mom takes a bath, and Ella does this. Jeff shows up as the power goes out, then heads upstairs armed with the poison syringe, finds Alan's mom roasting in the tub, then turns the breaker back on. Jeff tells Alan he's been doping Ella this whole time with the experimental drug. This naturally pisses off Alan. Ella attacks Jeff with a razor, where Jeff slices his hand on the razor. Ella jumps up on Alan's lap and scares the fuck out of him. Jeff tries to grab Ella, but she escapes. Jeff leaves the syringe on the table as they go to look for Ella. The phone rings and Alan manages to knock it off the hook. It's Melanie. She hears Ella screaming on the other end. Ella attacks Jeff in the hallway and administers the poison syringe. Jeff makes one last silly joke
Put enough in there to bring down King Kong.
before dying. Ella kills the power and shuts the door, preventing Alan from leaving the house. Melanie shows up to help Alan. Ella bites Melanie, causing her to fall, and pulls an R. Kelly on Alan. Ella then finds the other syringe Jeff filled with poison, yeah, there was actually 2 this whole time, and threatens Melanie with it. Alan manages to move his hand to turn on the radio. This distracts Ella long enough for Alan to grab Ella with his mouth, where he kills her. Later, under operating room lights, Alan undergoes surgery to correct his paralysis. Turns out that was a dream. Thank God. Melanie assures Alan the surgery was a success. Alan then is seen standing on his own feet following surgery to prove that not all George Romero films have a depressing ending. The end. The shooting schedule for Monkey Shines consisted of 12-hour days. Romero's wife and assistant, Christine, who was actually in the film, said that it was the toughest shoot that they had ever experienced. When filming the scenes with Boo, the capuchin monkey that played Ella, Romero required monkey doubles, which consisted of 4 puppets of the monkey created by Tom Savini, each covered in yak fur. Helping Hands, a service animal group from Boston, assisted with the monkeys seen in the film. Remember before the breakdown I talked about Dean Burbage's cut scene? The ending Romero intended to use was cut by Orion Pictures. This included Burbage stealing the remaining brain tissue serum Jeffrey created and injecting it into the remaining monkeys left in the lab. Once Alan regained his ability to walk again, Burbage was attacked by animal rights protesters who had earlier attacked Jeffrey in this scene. Once Burbage returns to the lab following the attack, it's discovered the remaining monkeys all had control over Burbage's mind. This can be seen in the bonus features of the Blu-ray version of the film. This was the first film Romero worked on with Orion Pictures. Orion was responsible for not only changing the ending, but making several cuts to Romero's version that had led to its box office failure. Romero wouldn't work with Orion again until 1993, during his next feature film, The Dark Half, which happens to be a Stephen King adaptation. When asked about the changing to this ending, Romero stated, "I thought my ending played well, but I admit the testing results were overwhelmingly in favor of the current version. To Orion's credit, they said, it's up to you. We'll release it either way. So I decided to go along and not fight it, but I'll always miss it." I don't think this was one of George Romero's best films. It's hard to put it up against his Dead series, or Creepshow, or even The Dark Half. It's just not in the same class. The horror element about this film wasn't as scary as I had envisioned. The idea of a horror film with frightening primates was done several times in the 1980s with Shockma, Primal Rage, and Link, just to name a few. The news of animal testing was so controversial in the 80s, it had to be done by horror directors as it seemed right in line with the times. I'm giving this film 3 skulls. I still have it in my collection as I'm a huge fan of Romero and his work, and I feel it has a place in the horror universe, just not the really scary horror universe. Thanks for joining me, Horror Hounds, and now for that special announcement. Greetings, Horror Hounds. This is Gorehound80 coming at you, creator of the channel and your Horror Hound Pack leader. I wanted to take a few minutes of my time to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart and let you know how much that your outpouring of love, comments, kindness, everything that you guys have been putting out there in the discussions on these videos, it means a lot to me. It really, really does. I can't say thank you enough to you guys for all that you do. One thing that I do also want to tell you is that next week I will be taking some time off from the channel. I'll be using this time to come up with some new ideas for the channel that I've got running around in my head. What I would like for you guys to do is to take that time also to leave your comments below. Tell me what you like about the channel. Tell me what you don't like about the channel. Let me know if you have great ideas for the channel. I want to hear them. You guys steer this channel and make it what it is. Again, thank you guys very, very much for what you do and your commitment to the channel. I'll be returning August 16th with the next episode. Until next time.